Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Shut Up and Sit Down, the show where we're going to be talking about some brand new board games and card games.
That's right, Tom. And today we're not just looking at any board games, this is the most fun I've had on my dining table in so long.
Quinns, what you get up to in your private life is your business.
Tom, how many games are we reviewing today?
Today on the show, we're reviewing 10 small games.
We're not doing 10.
Yeah, we talked about this. We're doing 10.
Really?
Yeah, Quinns, it's fine. They're 10 games, but they're only small. Our top 10 new small games.
Yeah, but a review is still... If you told me I was getting 10 small enemas, I would still be alarmed.
That's a false analogy. No one is out there making big box enemas.
Heavy enemas.
Crunchy enemas.
Euro enemas. Yeah. I can't believe you've sprung this on me. When do we start?
Now.
What?
Before we get rolling here, it's important to mention that these are small games from small publishers. So small, in fact, that these games might not be available right now. And if you want to learn any more about any of the games that we talked about in this episode of Shut Up and Sit Down, then why not check out the latest episode of the Shut Up and Sit Down podcast. I think it's a really good podcast that you can listen to anywhere that you'd listen to podcasts. We talk about a whole bunch of games. Check it out. Please! In the future, sure, but at the moment, getting your hands on these games might be a little bit spotty.
Did somebody say spots?
Oh, right, it was a transition.
You can go now.
Are you sure? Because this looks awful. Like, this looks like a board game that you'd see on a shelf in a video game. You know, like, the board game doesn't...
What are you for? Spots is yet another disclaimer-ridden title from the folks at CMYK Games, who brought you Monikers and Wavelength. We've worked with them in the past on expansions for both of those games, but only because they are great games, and almost unfortunately for our journalistic integrity, Spots is too. So Spots is a push-your-luck game where you're trying to stamp spots onto rogue dogs, and it's maybe the only game in this list that I can teach in literally 20 seconds. On your turn, choose one of 6 ways to roll the dice. Rolls that match the spots on dogs can be placed, and unmatched dice go in the yard. When a dog is full,
dog is full?
Please.
The 20 seconds are running.
When the dog is full of dice, take your turn to score dogs and replace them with new dogs. Or if you fill all the dogs, score them all at once for free. Treats can be used for re-rolls. You'll need them because if your yard gets 7 or more in dice, you bust and wipe all the dice off all the dogs. 6 dogs scored to win.
Wipe all the dice off.
Come on!
It's fine.
The simplicity of this teach, however, does not get across how dangerous Spots is as a push-your-luck game. The tantalizing bonus of being able to clear your dogs early means that players are constantly pushing for that one thing they want, getting ever closer to that horrible precipice of total hilarious failure. Seeing every other player accruing hale and hearty scores of dice on their dogs pushes you into the classically panicked and illogical space that the best push-your-lucks often do, and having such variability in the ways you roll these dice means that the game can tempt you into fast and loose play at the slightest chance of victory. The run action is a particular favourite. Roll a big handful of risk up front, and then the game asks you, hey, what's one more? Roll it again and again and again. Absolutely brutal in a game where one misplaced 6 can end you. It's also got fantastic production. My favourite touches are A, these slightly mismatched, blotchy, spotty dice, and B, the fact that the dogs are just great. Not in a fawning, gooey, marketable doggos kind of way, they're just characterful and scrappy in the way that actual dogs are. More dogs like this.
I'm ready.
Oh my god, that's not even a new game. It's from 1997. I wasn't even alive then.
I'll make you not alive now, you piece of shit. No For Sale isn't new, but I'm squeezing it into this list as if I was forcing a pensioner through the doors of a high school dance because it's superb. And Shut Up and Sit Down hasn't covered it yet, so by God, I'm doing it now. For Sale is a bit like when Tom and I work together. It's a game of 2 dumb halves that when you combine them together are no less dumb but are somehow more satisfying. So, in this game, players are real estate agents and the winner is whoever makes the nastiest, most biggest amount of money. At the start, players each receive a fixed puddle of coins, and then in the first half of the game, with your money being kept secret, you're going to deal out a number of properties equal to the number of players, and then you go round the table with each player either bidding or raising the existing bid or dropping out. And if you drop out, you then take the worst available property from the pile. But all you're really doing in this first half of the game is turning your pile of money into a hand of cards that you're then going to play the second half of the game with, where each round you deal out a number of checks equal to the number of players, and then everybody simultaneously reveals a property from a hand, and the best house gets the best check, all the way down to the worst house getting the worst check. Playing for sale, it is immediately obvious why this game has been kept in print by different publishers since before Tom was alive, and will almost certainly persist until after he's long gone. Not only does this game have a rock-solid foundational puzzle, it's full of really tense random chance. The game of two halves structure of it is just really cool, and most importantly, it generates constant, very funny mistakes where players just miss out on the sale of a lifetime or accidentally spend way too much money on an igloo. There are lots of different versions of this game though, so you might have to do some internet sleuthing to find what's available in your area. You might also want to look into the new For Sale Autorama, which has a third stage to the game where players buy advisors, and generally it's less immediate and a bit more nerdy.
Oh, fantastic work, Quinns. Recommending a game just 26 years too late.
Yeah, all right. Look, Shut Up and Sit Down itself is only 12 years old, so some of those years aren't my fault.
You're not just late to the party, you are late to the hangover.
Oh my God. All right, well, what have you got? How old is this game? Is it new?
It's 5 years old.
5 years old? Did this also come out before you were born?
Yeah. Do you want to eradicate the yokai menace? Probably not. But you will if it's packaged in a cool new trick-taking game, won't you? You little nerd.
Dude, I'm right here.
No, I was talking to them, the people at home.
Are those people?
Yeah. They are little nerds,
Yeah,
aren't they?
just little tiny
There is a staggering amount of choice when it comes to trick-takers these days, but I really do think that Yokai Septet is one to look out for as a juicy filler game for the irritatingly specific count of exactly 4 people. Playing by the classic trick-taking rules that I will not explain here, players are working in teams to try and capture these boss yokai, the shiny foil 7s. Win 4 of these between yourself and your partner and you've won the round, but every trick you take is also a ticking clock. As soon as either team wins a total of 7 tricks, the round is over, and if you won 7 tricks without getting the requisite number of boss yokai, then not only do you lose, but your opponents will score their cards and any that were left in your hands. Every single trick in Yokai Septet is agonizingly tense because the line between victory and defeat is so thin. You're counting on your teammates to make the right plays at the right time, but always through this thick, muddy bog of risk management, as you take educated guesses at the contents of everyone's hands. There's other neat gimmicks here, like the fact that each individual suit of cards has a different range of numbers for the cards within them, but listen, the nuances here are best unearthed through multiple excruciating games, like the very best card games. What's next, Quinns?
Hungry Monkey.
That isn't even a new game either, it's based on an old classic card game.
Oh yeah? And what card game is it based on, Tom? Huh? Why don't you tell me? Yeah? Tell me if you know everything about board games. Relevant to Tom's interests, Hungry Monkey is based on the card game Shithead, otherwise known as Palace. And Heidelberg have been doing this recently. They've been doing these really nice boxed versions of games you can play with a regular deck of cards, but with some slightly tweaked rules to fit the fact that these games have a unique deck. I like them all okay, Spicy's quite good, but I think Hungry Monkey is the best. It's also abstractly themed around a monkey who has lost his, quote, breakfast bean. And if you play multiple games, your score is counted in beans, which honestly counts for a lot. Hungry Monkey is a game where players are racing to be the first to discard all of the cards they're dealt at the beginning of the game. And you do this on your turn by discarding a card to a shared discard pile, but the number has to be the same or higher than the currently shown card at the top of the pile. And if you can't do that, if you can't discard and keep the run going, you have to take the entire pile and add it to your hand. Oh no. However, if you ever get 4 of the same number on the discard pile, then you get to bin that discard pile so it's not a problem for anybody and take another turn, starting a new pile. And also, playing certain animals gives you special bonuses, like the ant, who's always valid. In being based on a classic card game that's more than 50 years old, you'll find out 2 things about Hungry Monkey when you start playing it. The first is that it's weirdly tricky to learn and teach because there just aren't any card games like it anymore. but also this game has the smoothest flow you will find outside of your local bobsled run. It is so easy to play another round. It's so easy to relax while you're playing it, or just chat amiably while the game not plays itself, but where the play that you're doing is just so frictionless and easy and Moorish. And more.
Would you like to be the proud owner of Twilight Inscription? It's the secret 11th game in this top 10 small games video. Well, why is it a secret? Because it's not small. Or great. Twilight Inscription is like Twilight Imperium, but now it's smaller, but still big. They turned Twilight Imperium into a roll and write. Because they can. Is it good? Yeah, it's good. It's north of average. I played it once and will probably never play it again. It's fine. 4 roll and write boards packed with action. On the navigation board, you can draw lines. On the expansion board, you can tick off boxes. On the industry board, you can tick off boxes. On the warfare board, you can draw lines and tick off boxes. It's satisfying. These orange markers are lovely and you can make the numbers go up. It's fine. It's very playable. And does it feel like Twilight Imperium? No. But is it a good roll and write? Yeah, but not that good. It's weird, but actually kind of boring. It's like a roll and write, but it's too big and too expensive, but still quite good. Twilight Imperium is like a flavor. It's a good flavor that tastes nice, but in the wrong format, it can taste weird and frightening. It's like ketchup. Ketchup on chips, tasty. Ketchup as mouthwash, not so tasty. Twilight Inscription then is like gargling ketchup, a good flavor confused by its format. Bottoms up.
Is this part of the top 10?
Not really.
Leave the ketchup. Worldbreakers Advent of the Carnate had a successful Kickstarter last year, and it's available on BackerKit at the time of this video, and it's a delight for 2 reasons. First, it's a card game based on an alternate history 13th century Asia, where your deck might represent a descendant of the Khan or Marco Polo. Except this time they're all fighting over magical stones. And I genuinely love this. There's a tiny symbol on the cards that shows whether the thing you're looking at is a real person or place or thing from human history, or something the designer just totally made up. A creation, an invention, a fabrication, a lie. And I'll tell you something else that's charming and good, which is just the game. I like this game a lot. Like these kind of Magic the Gathering alikes where players get resources every turn and spend those resources on units and they attack with those units and block with those units are a dime a dozen in the board game scene. Everyone wants to make the next Magic the Gathering, and all too often these games are just kind of weak. Like we looked at Radlands a little while back and it looked stunning. Great concept for a game, but it just didn't click for us. Worldbreakers is just strong. It's tense, it seems balanced, it's interesting. And I found myself, and this is a real sign of quality, every turn so excited to draw my next hand of cards, not just for the tactical opportunities these cards would offer me, but I was really excited to look at the art and the theme, each card being like a little window into the invented world of this game. Disclaimer, I am a history buff, but Tom enjoyed this game a lot, and Tom isn't a history buff, and I will now prove it. Tom, can you put the following wars in order? The Napoleonic Wars, the American Civil War, and the American Revolutionary War.
No.
So there you have it. I think designer Eli Amir is one to watch.
Why did you do that?
Because I was just wanted to do bam, bam. What's the next game?
Voyages and Aquamarine are 2 frighteningly robust print and play roll and writes. So robust, in fact, that I can find literally nothing funny to say about them. There will be no jokes for the remainder of this segment. What are you doing?
Jokes.
No jokes.
Oh, really?
Voyages has you be in a little boat and travelling round a little archipelago with naught but the unreliable winds at your disposal. Each round you're going to roll 3 dice and pick 1 as a direction and 1 as a distance. You're battling the unpredictable nature of these dice whilst trying to plot a course to score points by selling cargo and besting sea beasties. Then Aquamarine has you diving down under the sea, using these dice to create areas that you'll use to capture various icons on your travels. You're trying to scoop up clusters of symbols that will score nicely, but also pay attention to the limited air supply you're expending as you dive down in this fiendish little Tetris puzzle. Both of these games have absolutely cracking foundations, really simple, tight, flexible systems that encourage replayability, but what makes them really special is the way that they expand upon themselves with new and interesting gimmicks each time you play. What are you doing?
That's an air horn, in case you, if you do a joke in this segment where there's like no jokes. So it's like a punishment.
Why are you always trying to put punishments in the videos?
There need to be stakes, otherwise what is any of this for?
What are you talking about, stakes?
Yeah. Just get on with it.
Okay, fine. What about a map that turns Voyages into a boat race? Or a map that introduces caves and huge sea creatures into Aquamarine? And another great thing about these games is that they're unbelievably cheap at just £4 for not just the game, but access to all future content for these games as well. I absolutely love what developers Postmark Games are doing here. A really fresh, exciting, affordable, and sustainable approach to roll and write games. Great stuff.
Trek 12 is a... Jesus Christ! Trek 12 Himalaya and the new sequel, Trek 12 Amazonia, are roll and write games where you don't feel like you're trekking anywhere at all. You really don't. But conversely, this product design really does feel like it goes the extra mile. Not only do these boxes contain little campaigns so you can string your games together into a whole evening, they have hidden expansions that you can only unlock if one player around the table does something cool. And then the game itself, like the very best roll and writes, is equal parts gambling and utterly rigid and unsmiling puzzle. Each round, one player rolls the dice, and then everybody can either take the higher number, the lower number, the sum, the difference, or the product. But you can only do each of these things 4 times in a game. Now, what players are trying to do here is create giant snaking sequences of numbers, or identical neighboring numbers, but ideally both at once, and it's a nightmare. But you can make use of special equipment like a tent, or a man, or hard alcohol. Now, this game doesn't quite reach the heights of shut up and sit down favorite roll and writes like Railroad Inc. or Welcome to the Moon.
Or Super Skill Pinball.
Or Super Skill Pinball. Tom loves Super Skill Pinball. He's weird. He was.
Woo!
But it comes closer than anything I've seen in a little bit. And if you go to the Lumberjack Studio website, you'll find some extra free expansions for Trek 12 where you can climb over a Japanese mountain or a house or a heart. The Valentine's Day one, have you seen it?
No, that doesn't sound great.
It's just map a heart. The house one is cool. They did it for the pandemic during lockdown. And so it's like the achievements you want to hit is like, make sure you climb to the kitchen to get a beer bonus. It's just cute. Now, entirely unintentionally, we have saved 2 of the best games for last. Which of these games is better?
Mine.
You don't need to say anything because this one is better.
Ryan Courtney has a problem. Plenty of people liked the pipe puzzle of Pipeline, but struggled with its cutthroat Eurogame elements. And then lots of people loved the pipe puzzle of Curious Cargo, but struggled with its very sharp second layer of pinching people's products. So finally, this designer has listened to the masses and made a game that is just the pipe puzzle. And it's horrible! Trailblazers looks sweet and saccharine on the surface, but it has a rotted heart that wants only to inflict pain. Each round, players draw a hand of 8 cards and place one of these camps on the table in front of them. And from there, they'll choose 2 of the trail cards from their hand to add into their network of trails. Trails want to form loops. Leaving camps and returning to them will score you 1 point for every length in the trail. The bigger the better, and so you quickly begin charting grand plans for your humble trails. Then you realise that at the start of the next round, you need to introduce another camp into the mix. Then again in the 3rd round, and by the 4th round, the game is over. That's just 24 trail cards for the entire game. And you need to satisfy 3 different kinds of trail, and on top of that, you have bonkers hard goal cards that are equal parts tantalising and impossible. Get my loop to loop round 2 other camps with their own loops? Why don't you f*** off? Here's the thing, every single game of Trailblazers I have played has ended with me head in hand, just one tiny segment of trail away from a perfect mega points loop. The real rotten heart of this game then is you. It's your own twisted desire for perfection from a system you know you cannot pull it from. Trailblazers is a hubris generator as much as it is a satisfying puzzle game, and I love it for that. Personally, I do still think I prefer Pipeline and Curious Cargo. I love that second layer that is added on top of the pipes. But for a lot of people, this game just being the pipes is exactly what they need. It's a fantastic distillation of what people love about those games into a tiny, terrifying little package. And for me, it's a game that will stay in my collection as an equal parts satisfying and gruesome little puzzle for whenever I can't get its design dads to the table.
And finally, For the Queen, which we are coming to shamefully late, is just fantastic. Now, this isn't a role-playing game, but in recent years, role-playing game designers have been working on how quick and accessible and powerful story games can be. And For the Queen is a game where players will tell a story together and where this deck of cards has the radical, transformative power of a block of refined uranium. Now, very importantly, nobody has to do any acting in this game, and it doesn't even have a manual. You start by just taking this deck of cards and taking turns going around the table, and everybody reads one card out aloud. Starting with, the land has been at war for as long as any of you have been alive. The Queen has gone on a long journey to broker a peace, and she's taken you all with her. Then you just pick one of the game's queens, and then one after another, you're all simply asked questions. Questions you don't even have to answer. You can pass on a question if you want, or give it to the next person, but you're gonna want to answer them because these questions are great. Questions like, why are some at the royal court jealous of your relationship with the Queen? The Queen lights a fire in you. What is it? And you suspect this journey isn't about diplomacy. What else do you believe is going on? And then the game ends when you reach this final question in the deck that everybody has to answer. And you can decide how long a game you want to play by simply putting it deeper and deeper into the deck. But the question reads as follows. The Queen is under attack. Do you defend her? And with everybody's answer to that question hanging in the air like the peal of a funereal bell, players are simply left to sit marinating in that open-ended question like so much tender beef. It's moving, it's small, and I think it's a great unexpected gift for the gamer in your life who is maybe role-playing curious, like 1000-Year-Old Vampire, which is also good, and Tom's done a review of it. God, I love this game so much. I love For the Queen. I think it's really, really solid, but most importantly, I love that it exists in the enormously unexplored territory that exists between the worlds of role-playing games and board games and card games. I think that's very exciting. There is so much design treasure out there waiting to be discovered, I'm sure.
And that's been our top 10 new small games. What have we learned, Quinns? I've learned that we always have to finish our trails.
Right.
And I've also learned that you have to eradicate the yokai menace. And what have you learned, Quinns?
I don't.
Follow the rules.
And what happens if we break those rules?
If we break them?
What does happen?
I don't. What's happening?